Suga has been getting some severe death threats, and I mean some severe ones. We also have him in the ER that is being talked about when he had his surgery, and then we have Jessi actually being talked about for leaving the label. So Dumplings, it's safe to decide, let's get into it. Jessi leaving the label is a very big deal. A lot of people have been very confused about this whole situation, and of course I can't keep making videos without addressing it, and sometimes I do address things that aren't directly BTS related. However, Jessi is a close friend of BTS, so I'm sure this news also affects them a little bit as well, like they're probably aware of what's going on. Now the crazy thing with celebrities versus maybe a friend that you know or that I know is that oftentimes with celebrities, if you are acquaintances or friends, you can still find out what's going on through the news first before you find out from that friend. So oftentimes we hear of something unfolding when we go and catch up with that friend at dinner or lunch, but that might be a week after that event has happened. Whereas of course if you're friends with a celebrity, sometimes you'll find out in the news first before you get a chance to actually catch up and talk to them. So by that point you might already know a lot of what's going on. So I say this because oftentimes people say, oh, when the BTS members find out about it, they don't like to talk about it. Well, one reason could be because they haven't even fully gotten a chance to get the story yet, as they might not have had the opportunity to actually sit down with their friend and talk about it. And you know how media can kind of twist things sometimes. Now, if you're confused about what happened with Jessi, we definitely need to talk about it. This is a fairly complicated situation where Jessi was out with some of her friends, and I say the word friends pretty loosely because it seemed like she didn't really know every single person in that group that she was with. She knew maybe the main producer a little bit, and then it was a bunch of the producer's friends that were around. This is what I believe happened, and this is from what I read, which may or may not be a credible source. Now, apparently a fan came up to her and maybe wanted a photo or whatever it was, and it was then pushed away by the producer, and then the producer's friend apparently went to attack the fan. Jessi then, of course, I think you can see her initially trying to stop this, but as things escalated, she ended up walking away. This was all then uncovered through CCTV footage that happened to be recording them all on the street. Now, in the beginning, she got a lot of backlash because she walked away. But of course, she was going to walk away. She wasn't going to sit there and try to stop a bunch of men beating up someone, as she could put herself in danger. Eventually, police did show up, so there is a likelihood of her having called the police, and that's why they showed up. So she didn't just abandon this person. She actually did try to help them a little bit. And as Jessi's lawyer emphasized too, Jessi doesn't know the person who attacked the fan. They are not friends. They are in no way in any relationship. They just happen to be in that moment together. So it was obvious that this situation blew way out of proportion. Now there's a new update that comes out where apparently she has now officially left her label, and she just signed with this label for about a month. This was very tough for me to hear because I feel like Jessi was kind of just starting to get a lot more recognition as an artist. She's been in the game forever. She knows it like the back of her hand, and she had even stressed or talked about at one point where she only felt like she had just started making real money lately. And so for something this crazy to happen in which it didn't really involve her, she just kind of happened to be there at the same time, and it then being seen in such a horrible light, and then the label now leaves a statement saying that they parted ways, it's very sad. They said that the contract was terminated. This is usually typically in the meaning of dropping her, but it could mean that she decided to leave, but it's not typically used in that way. I've been on the receiving end of jumping from one agency to another, because an agency didn't fit what my needs were or wasn't really helping. So I know exactly what it feels like to finally feel like you're making a little bit of progress, only to now have to jump to a completely different agency. So I really feel for her, and this really breaks my heart because I'm a big fan of her, and I really thoroughly do enjoy the music that she makes. So to see this, it's really upsetting. Switching gears a little bit, there has been a new form of backlash that has been going around, which I think is very interesting. This backlash has nothing to do with BTS themselves, but then BTS has then been dragged into it. So as some of you might be aware, Liam Payne had recently passed. Now, some of the other One Direction members who are on tour or who are doing anything have decided to take a break and postpone these things that they're doing. So for example, Zayn decided to postpone his world tour and reschedule it on a different day, but he made sure to tweet about it. Now, someone who is an alleged BTS fan made sure to quote tweet that to leave their own comment to talk about how Suga had a shoulder injury for years and still performed, and then also made sure to mention that Jin had performed with a broken finger. All this to say that when the BTS members were going through things, they still put their fans or the community first and didn't let their community down by postponing a tour or whatever it was. And this is a completely different thing. This was almost infuriating to read because it just passes this line where it's almost so stupid that you wouldn't believe it's real, and then at the same time not dumb enough where you can kind of believe it's real. Like if someone were to say 2 + 2 is 9, it's so dumb that obviously we wouldn't believe that they actually believe that. But this statement almost teeters between that line where you can actually feel like maybe this person who's writing this actually does believe what they're saying. Of course, it goes without saying that if the other members of One Direction decide to keep going and keep business as usual, they would receive a whole another level of backlash. They would be described as insensitive, they would be described as not caring about their bandmate that just passed. It would be a whole PR nightmare. Alongside the fact that Suga performing with a shoulder injury as well as Jin performing with his finger broken was somewhat of a selfish reason as well. Like Suga got his shoulder injury well before he was famous or really had much of an audience, but he kept it a secret because he didn't want to get dropped. So this was a little bit of a selfish thing. He wanted to be successful, so he pushed through, which is okay. It's okay to be selfish and have selfish desires. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. All celebrities, all entrepreneurs, anyone who is successful has to put themselves first to a certain degree. And Suga did that, which is why he is successful now. Whereas canceling a tour because their friend died is a completely different thing. As a lot of you are aware, there's also been the wreaths that have been outside the label, and this has then taken a step further to people sending death threats. There has been an account that has, in my opinion, pretended to be the person who had been sending the wreaths. They wrote that they were the one responsible and that they were the ones to protect the wreaths so people cannot destroy them. And then claims, since they are so powerful to be able to do all this, that they would be the one that would be capable of ending Suga's life, with even claims of people saying that this person had been looking for Suga's address so that they could try to end his life with a weapon or something like that. This to me is absolutely crazy. I think when people read this, their first instinct and their first thought is, oh my god, we need to protect Suga, like something really bad is going to happen. And this is obvious. I definitely agree that this probably needs to be looked into. But all this over what? Like, what is the motive behind someone wanting to kill another person over them drinking and riding a scooter? Mind you, the person who is allegedly behind the threats is not a person who's from Korea. They probably would very much be aware that in their country, this would not be considered a huge crime, but why are they upset anyway? When you break it down like that, to me, it's very clear that the person who is writing all of this, who's making all of these threats, is doing it for the sole reason of trying to get attention. They don't actually want to hurt them. They don't actually know anything about him, and they don't want to do anything. They just want to go viral online. Now, the other half of this that makes me very confused is when people start showing these accounts and saying that this person and the account is the same, but then the names don't match up, and then they're saying that I did my research, trust me, but we're supposed to just sit there and believe that the usernames all match up to the same person, and that's the part that's confusing to me, because clearly this is not all the same person, and sometimes they'll show different faces and then claim that this is all the same person. So to me, at least, it's clear that there's a lot of different information coming out at once, and a lot of it may not be true, but it all makes a really great story to go viral. So I think that that also enhances this, and it creates this environment where more people are going to want to make up these things and do these things because they know that they have a huge opportunity to go viral. Now, wanting to do this to go viral makes a lot more sense, because clearly their parents didn't hug them enough. Because in my opinion, as someone who has helped other businesses grow on social media and helped other influencers go viral on social media, going viral without the opportunity to make money is pointless. And these people who are doing this do not make any money from doing this. So they just clearly want attention, in which case they probably have no friends or family members that love them, which to me is actually very sad. Let me know what you think. Make sure to check out Patreon for more videos, link down below. Thanks, just leave a comment right here. Love you, bye.